Possums, what's up? Welcome to week 2, where the smartest college football brain, Billy Mansell, and myself walk you through the wonderful twists, turns, and what to look for this week in regards to Dynasty, Devy, and overall football mayhem. So, guys, let's tailgate. Billy, we saw some really awesome stuff in week 1. We saw LSU lose what is quite possibly the best ending to a game I've ever seen. Anthony Richardson looks like the real Kamani Code, and Will Anderson and Jalen Carter showed running backs everywhere that they are not safe in the backfield. So how are you doing today, man? That was a good week of football.
Dude, it really was. I love college football. Like, there's just pieces of the game that you're never going to get in an NFL game. Like that LSU FSU game will never happen in an NFL game, but it happens in college because these are freshmen. These are literally 18-year-olds that just got there. You know, they might have gone partying the night before the game or something.
I know, I would have been.
Exactly.
The sloppiness there is just epic. I love it.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. But yes, well, before we get into week 2, let's just recap slightly what happened in week 1, because there was a lot of good, there was a little bad, and we'll just start with the bad first. Joe, the wide receivers in week 1 were left something to be desired. We'll start out with the injuries, which is not necessarily their fault, but Jackson Smith-Njigba, our number 1 wide receiver, gets hurt in the game. They're considering him week to week, so he probably won't play this week. I'm not going to lie. We got a little cupcake game scheduled, so I don't think we'll see Jackson Smith-Njigba, and that's really frustrating because that Ohio State offense looked very bad against Notre Dame's defense.
They really did. I mean, Stroud kind of looked lost out there for a little bit. No one was really stepping up for it, so we'll see. We'll see.
It is not what I thought was going to happen. I did not. The weird thing is the Ohio State defense actually looked really good, which is not at all what I thought. I thought the case was going to be that the Ohio State defense was going to be bad, offense good, but it was a complete flip-flop, Joe. The defense was really good for Ohio State, and the offense left something to be desired. We can just chalk it up to week 1 nerves, but Joe, this is supposed to be the best offense in college football. It did not look that way.
That was week 1. We'll give them some time to get healthy and get it all together.
It is week 1. There's nothing to worry about with JSN. Let's just give him time to get healed up. We'll see if this injury does make a reappearance sometime down the road. Maybe we can reevaluate him or something. But I don't think there's anything to worry about. It's week 1, no concern. We'll go to Josh Downs from North Carolina, which, boy, did they need him. That game was a shootout between them and Appalachian State. Called that game being an intense one. I thought they were going to lose in North Carolina, and they almost did. But Josh Downs was a late scratch, Joe. Like, literally right before the game started, he just they say he wasn't going to play. He was in street clothes while everybody else was warming up.
Now, did they ever come out and say anything as to why he wasn't playing?
They said it wasn't anything serious, but it was a lower body injury. That's the fun thing they do in college, since they don't have to give an injury report. Yep. They could just say lower body injury. That could mean anything from an amputated leg to he just has a hangnail. Like, There's no telling.
It looked like he had both of his legs though, so that's a good start.
It did appear as if he had both of his legs because he was standing on the sidelines, and I'm sure he'll be fine. I do think it's a little weird that he didn't play in this one because I think they could have used him. The score was like 66-62. Like, in a game like that, you're all about stats. So that was kind of frustrating.
Continues to look good.
He does. I cannot believe it. I'm not going to lie, Joe. I think Sam Howell maybe shouldn't have been out there last year. But whatever. That's he was the QB1 going into the class last year, so whatever.
No, real quick, man, I got to talk about that onside kick where the entire line was just leveled by North Carolina. That was quite possibly one of the coolest plays I've ever seen.
That was a good game too. I can't believe they ran back the kick and then it gave the time for Appalachian State. It's kind of hilarious because Mac Brown's their coach and he's known as a defensive head coach. I don't think there was an ounce of defense played in the game. I mean, much less, that being a defensive minded team as an offensive minded team, and luckily they have Drake May that can keep him in these shootouts.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we'll continue on with the wide receiver woes. Quentin Johnston, I just don't even know what to do for him. TCU sucks, Joe. Like
Yep.
there was perfect. They put a meme on Twitter. It was perfect. It's like a Lamborghini sitting in a garage that's of a house that's, not necessarily one of the best, but you have a Lambo sitting in the garage. It's kind of exactly what TCU has here. The offense looks horrible, and you have Quentin Johnston out there that's not doing what he is capable of.
No, I hope it keeps his name out of people's mouths, and we end up getting a steal from him come draft time next year.
Yeah, well, right now it's not appearing as if he's going to do anything consequential with that offense, but maybe we'll have a few splash plays that'll remind us what he's capable of. Continue on with the wide receiver woes. So we get to LSU in that game that we found really fun against Florida State. Kayshon Boutte is not being used properly.
Yeah. I got to get the note. I got to understand why he was taken off the field so much. Do you know if he was dealing with an injury or anything, or was he fighting?
That's
Antonio Browning the team?
It's literally the craziest thing. They won't throw him the ball, Joe. They target him like 4 times the entire game. He looks like the best player on the field anytime that he's out there. And the fact that they won't just focus the ball to their best receiver on the team is perplexing, to say the least.
Yeah, Treylon Burks got a lot of credit last year for being A.J. Brown, but he is A.J. Brown 2.0, and to have that on your offense and not use it is fairly shocking to me. He did have the catch when it mattered most, though, when they absolutely needed it. So shows you the kind of gamer he is.
Yeah, and so after the game, well, this is the most NFL thing ever, but he deleted everything of LSU off of his Instagram and Twitter after the game. The reason that he cited was that he did not want people to come in his mentions talking bad about him. He didn't want to make it a story, which, Joe, I'm not going to lie to you, it seems more of a story that you deleted everything from the school off of your account than just not paying attention to it for a weekend. I don't know.
He didn't want to make it a story, but he made it a story.
He sure as heck did. And here's the thing, Joe, and if this season starts to spiral out of control, this is almost directly what Derek Stingley did for LSU last year. He just packed it in about week 4, and we never heard from Derek Stingley again. Ended up number 4 in the draft. So I'm not saying that this is like a death sentence for him, but I don't love when the wide receiver is in an offense that he doesn't like and is unhappy, quote unquote unhappy. I think he's unhappy. He might not agree with me, but all signs point that way.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting to watch how that unfolds. And, we don't think it's going to affect his draft stock at all. But in Devy leagues, that's pretty disappointing to have that caliber of a player. It's kind of the Quentin Johnson thing.
Yes. But, as far as good wide receivers, Jordan Addison was competent. We saw what he can do. Zay Flowers, who I was really high on last year, and then he went back to school. He looks like he picked up right where he left off. I mean, I don't even have him written down as one of my names to look for, but he might be back. Okay. Before we get into week 2 still, let's talk about Anthony Richardson, who I think we can firmly say is number 3 quarterback. I don't really see how we can come off of that based on just the pure spectacular nature of what this kid can do.
Yeah, I mean, I just based off what he can do, I want to put him number 1 just because that is absolutely insane.
And the funny thing is, I've read a couple mock drafts that are week-to-week mock drafts, and they put him over C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young already. And Joe, the arm is still an issue, and it literally looks like we're watching Lamar Jackson, a bigger Lamar Jackson, play football, because this is exactly what Lamar Jackson did.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He looks like Michael Vick with the size of Josh Allen. It's crazy what he's doing out there.
You cannot bring him down by yourself. You're not going to be able to do that. And the only real problem, Joe, is he just can't throw accurately in the middle of the field. I don't know what he's hung up on about that, but it's a problem. I would say that this is something. I mean, I went and put money on him to win the Heisman just because if he's going to do this all season, Joe, we might as well buy tickets now. I just want to watch him anytime he's playing football.
Yeah, it thoroughly incredible.
Yeah, and they moved from unranked in that game when they beat number 7 Utah to number 12 in the nation. So
Wow.
that's a fun little jump. A lot of people were mad about that jump, like that ranking. But if they're correcting a mistake, it's not that big of a deal to move them up that far. The only other thing is that we really didn't have any of the defensive players that I like watching, and I was waiting for somebody to have splash plays. I mean, Will Anderson got in the backfield one time and didn't get a sack, but he got tackled for loss, which was kind of exciting. But none of like the big names really did anything that was overly good. So that was kind of disappointing. Really would love to see as we go on through the season for, some splash plays. Like I just need something to get me excited for these guys.
Yeah, that Will Anderson play just reminded me of the Jadeveon Clowney play. And I've, again, all hyped on him.
Yeah, of course. And he will be. He's still number 4 in the Heisman odds too, which is crazy, over Anthony Richardson, which is kind of funny. But okay, let's get on to week 2. Before we even start week 2, Joe, Sam Hartman, quarterback for Wake Forest, is back. He was a mysterious medical issue the week before we were supposed to start, out indefinitely. We did not know if he was even going to be back the season at all, but it looks like he's back. I can't even speak to like what the problem was because it's not been made public, but he was the number 8 quarterback on my board going in, and it's exciting that we're going to get to see him this year.
Yeah. Love seeing the guys we haven't seen yet.
Yeah. And hopefully, his backup was pretty good last week. I forgot that kid's name already. I said it last week. It's still just forgot it, but they look pretty solid, and Wake Forest is going to have one of those offenses, Joe, where the defense doesn't do a whole lot and the offense does a lot of the work. And it's going to be fun to watch, at least for the stats of it all. But let's get right into week 2, Joe. Let's just get to the premier matchup. Premier, quote unquote, but the big matchup of the day, and that'll be Alabama versus Texas. College game day will be there. Get the scene set. Alabama, we're kind of all still looking all across the board. Bryce Young looked like he picked up right where he won the Heisman from last year, which was really good in that first game. Jermaine Burton does look solid as the wide receiver. Again, they weren't playing a very good team in Utah State, but Utah State did win 11 games last year. It's not like they were slouches. So to thoroughly beat them down 55-0 was, it wasn't for nothing to see them do that. But honestly, we're looking at Will Anderson. We're looking at the safeties, Jordan Battle and Brian Branch. And then the mystery, Joe, is Jamir Gibbs. I don't like it. I don't know if you saw any
10 yards of carry was nice.
Okay, well, Joe, let's break that down a little bit. So he had one run for 55 yards, and then he had 8 other runs that did not go over 10 yards.
Yep.
That is, I don't know. I like he had 2 carries that went no gain. Like they just got stopped right at the line against Utah State. And I don't know. Something feels off, Joe. It just feels off. I know that he's going to be at Alabama. He's going to be, used a lot, and he's going to get the big, Alabama push as the running back. But there's something I just don't like about him, man.
Yeah. He looked impressive on the 55-yarder, but I can see what you're talking about. He's not overly impressive in any aspect of his game.
And this was game 1. He is a transfer coming from Georgia Tech. Like, there's plenty of like pump the brakes on the skeptical nature of it. But like, I don't know. Just a little off. But on the Texas side of things, we're really looking at Bijan Robinson the most. I mean, he's the RB1 going into the season. He looked solid in their first game, even though, it was against a cupcake. So hopefully you look good in those games. But Joe, I mean, do you think he's going to get anything done against this Alabama defense?
He has a real test ahead of him, but we've seen the talent, and, it just depends how they want to deploy him against Alabama, because you can't get him on one side of the line. That's for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I need to see more from him. A lot of people already are putting him as like, oh, he's RB3 in Dynasty right now. If he was in, and it's like, pump the brakes a little bit. Like, it's exciting to have him in college football again. So that part is exciting to have him there. But just, I don't know. There's just something off.
Yeah, the comp with all these guys recently has been Saquon Barkley. Everyone, the most complete back since Saquon, and all.
Yep.
We heard it with Breece Hall, we heard it with Bijan Robinson, and we got to see how it plays out.
Yeah,
we were hearing it about Spiller last year too. We saw how far he fell, and he's barely relevant. And of course, he's injured right now, but
and that's exactly what I'm saying. Like exactly it. And I don't know. It's just something. I just need to see him against the Alabama defense, Joe, that this will just prove things. Either he's going to be really good and Steve Sarkisian will have figured it out for him, or he won't. And we'll have more question marks about the running back position. Because right now it seems like Bijan Robinson and everybody else, there was a couple of good players this past weekend, but kind of a mismatch of running backs. And we really need those in fantasy coming up here, because I need, we need something before TreVeyon Henderson comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if he falls off, who's there to take it? Is it Henderson? Is it,
I don't even know, because like Gibbs is RB2 right now, but do I even feel good about that? Not really. So I don't know. The only other player on Texas that I think we should be watching is DeMarvion Overshown. He's a fifth-year player, so I guess, definitely be the Senior Bowl, Joe. Just mark him down as somebody that we need to be paying attention to. He's really still kind of raw as a defensive end, but I think by the end of the season, he might be able to show something. And if he can get home to Bryce Young a couple times in this game, like maybe that could boost him up the board.
Yeah, definitely excited to see that.
Okay, well, 3 more games to go over in week 2. This isn't an amazing slate of games. It's a lot of the Southwest Eastern Community College games is what week 2 is looking like. But there are a couple more that I think we should look at. Just quickly want to mention Pitt versus Tennessee. I just really think this will be a fun game to watch. The Pitt game happened so early last week and on Thursday that a lot of people forgot how fun that was against West Virginia. Their team is not really stacked with a lot of good talent. I mentioned John Morgan, the defensive tackle. He can only be as exciting as a defensive tackle could be. He's in his 5th year. He had 4 tackles and a sack last week against West Virginia. He did look like a very dominant player in that game against West Virginia. Pitt does not exactly have the best talent. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
And then on the Tennessee side, Hinden Hooker is the guy that we're looking for. 5th year transfer from Virginia Tech. He can run, he can pass. The knock on him is he's like 27 years old. So, he's starting out pretty much at the same age as like Josh Allen. And that's a little concerning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is, that's going to fall way down boards in Dynasty.
Yeah, he's not going to, he's going to have to get drafted to the right team. There is a chance he can get into the first round, but I don't see, with him being as old as he is, like, it's just hard to believe that he would make it into the first round. But crazier things have happened, Joe. We'll see him in the Senior Bowl.
Playing at 45. So
exactly, and we'll see him at the Senior Bowl. And Kenny Pickett was at the Senior Bowl, and he was a first-round quarterback. So it's not impossible.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he doesn't have small hands, but we'll see. All right, moving on to what should be, for our purposes, one of the more exciting matchups of the weekend, and that is Kentucky versus Florida, because you will have the direct matchup of Will Levis, who we have as the 4th-ranked quarterback, versus Anthony Richardson, the 3rd-ranked quarterback. They'll directly head-to-head, same field. You will be able to judge them based on, head-to-head, see exactly how good they are. This game is in Florida, so Kentucky might be at a little bit of disadvantage in that part, but if Will Levis is going to be as good as a lot of people think he's going to be, he's going to have to prove it on the road. So this is a very exciting quarterback matchup. I know this is like all the draft scouts are going to be glued on this one, because you're literally getting 2 NFL quarterbacks fighting it out.
Absolutely. I mean, does Will Levis have a 5'6", 160-pound receiver to throw it to this year, like he did with Wandale last year?
He doesn't, but he's still good. I mean, he still can make things happen. He does have Chris Rodriguez, who is one of the best running backs in the nation, and I think he's the number 5 running back that I have ranked right now. So we'll definitely get to see him. But between those two, I mean, this offense is something to behold. And I mean, the Florida defense did look stout. So this will be a good test to see if either of them are going to be viable in fantasy next year, or maybe it's just one of them, or, what, because this will be an exciting test for them. And then, yeah, of course, Anthony Richardson, I'm going to be locked into any game that he's playing in. So to see him going against a ranked team again after just beating Utah last week, yeah, give me the popcorn, Joe. I'm ready.
Yeah, I am too, man. That, like I said earlier, that was insane.
It definitely was. Moving on to the last game. This one is a little bit more interesting. As far as like a draft perspective, I guess it's USC versus Stanford. So I'll start with Stanford. Tanner McKee was PFF's third-ranked quarterback going into this year, like third-ranked draft-eligible quarterback going into this year. I've watched a ton of Tanner McKee game, and I cannot understand for the life of me why they think that Tanner McKee is better than Anthony Richardson, for example, like before the season even started. I mean, a lot of people didn't think Anthony Richardson was going to be that good, but like to put Tanner McKee up there based on literally nothing, I have to see this against USC.
Is he one of those just steady Eddie guys that is going to nickel and dime his way down the field?
Literally, yes. Like literally the one metric that they was tight window throws. That was literally the only metric that made him the third ranked quarterback was tight window throws. That was like no thank you.
That just sounds like their rankings to me is, it's always the steady, Anthony Richardson's got the flash, the pop, the sizzle and everything there, but with their grading system and everything, he's probably not super high because of that.
Right. And it's more I just need to see Stanford be a competent football team. They beat Oregon last year in like an upset. It was like it shouldn't even have happened because like the refs missed a call. So like, it was like a good game for him to show off, how good he was against Kayvon Thibodeau in them. But like, I still just don't see it. And I think that he is a lot better of a college quarterback than he is a actual drafted quarterback in the NFL.
No.
Also in this game, USC side, obviously we're going to be watching Caleb Williams. I know that he's not eligible this year. So, this is the Debbie brain in me, like looking out, but he is a very exciting quarterback and he looked very sharp in the first game. They played Rice. So it's like, whatever. Rice, okay. Before I got to get this off my chest, Joe. So although I know I hate USC because Lincoln Riley's there and he, tried to destroy the Oklahoma program. ESPN, they had 5 college football stories on Sunday on the like little, how that you get an ESPN, they have that little block of stories to click on. And all of them were like, Anthony Richardson dazzles against number 7 Utah. And it had like Alabama, picks up right where they left off, number 1. And then, like obviously the Georgia, Oregon, and Ohio State versus Notre Dame. And then tacked in there, USC looks amazing against Rice. What?
Shouldn't they? What?
Exactly. It's like, okay, every other big school, like, obviously it's going to come off as me being a hater because Oklahoma didn't get that kind of, Oklahoma looks sharp against, I don't even remember who they played, UTEP. Like, they didn't get any story about that. And it's like, why did that deserve a story on the ESPN homepage? Like, okay.
A lot of USC fans out there, man.
I know, and they're really trying to build the brand back up. And I mean, Pac-12's open this year, so they could be able to win. So I don't know. It's just, I just opened up that thing, because I like reading the stories, especially like stuff I don't get to see in the game, and then just to see that one tacked in there, I was like, "Wow, against Rice?" What? Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, this game should be a lot better, and actually a competitive one, other than Rice. By the way, okay, this is going to go back to me hating again on USC. I usually hate on Texas, but USC's kind of got my number this year. USC in the second drive for Rice, they had a 14-play, 80-yard drive that took 8 minutes off the clock. Rice did against USC. Jeez. And boy, did I feel haunted by that, because that's exactly what Oklahoma dealt with the entire season last year. Could not get off the field on third down. They just kept chewing clock. They would get these little dink and duck 5 yards, 4 yards, 3 yards, like 3 yard, and just get down the field methodically. It was haunting, but they ended up, beating Rice, which thank God. That would have been not a good start.
Do you blame Riley for that?
Well, yeah, because he took the defensive coordinator, which was not a good defensive coordinator. Like, that was the most shocking thing. Lincoln leaving Oklahoma was not actually that shocking as compared to him taking the defensive coordinator, which was not good last year, and taking him to USC to do basically the same job. But
you got to take your boys with you, man. That's what you're doing with me on the tailgate here.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But Joe, I think you provide more, to this podcast than that defensive coordinator. I'm not going to say his name provides to the USC team. I'm just going to say that.
Aw,
straight
I appreciate that.
Straight up. Okay. Well, anyway, on the USC side, Caleb Williams, I'm going to be locked into him every week. I'm really fascinated because I think he could potentially be the best quarterback that we've seen come out of the draft in a long time. That's very possible and on the table for 2024, but we'll have to see. And then Jordan Addison, obviously, just picked up right where he left off. He looked great out there. I mean, you can tell he already has a connection with Caleb Williams, and I'm very frustrated at how many people are down on Jordan Addison. The man won the Blitnikoff Award last year for the best wide receiver in the country over all of your favorite wide receivers that were in the draft last year. And people just treat him like chopped liver, Joe. Like, he's most people's like not even sixth best wide receiver this year. That's ridiculous.
It's crazy. And you're right. He picked up right where he left off, 2 touchdowns, 50 yards. I mean, it wasn't spectacular, but he looks awesome. And I mean, I'm seeing mocks already where he's going in, I think, 15, 14 on the overall board. So, I mean, people are on him. I don't know where these haters are coming from. I don't know what they're talking about.
Well, I think they just need to be, especially after this past weekend, because literally all of the wide receivers, it felt like, had down weeks. To see one of the like big ones actually have a good week was pretty happy for us to get one of those out there that was actually good, because we've been talking JSN up this entire offseason just for him to throw out a dud because he's hurt. Just to have that happen was kind of frustrating.
Now, is the hate on Addison the fact that he went from Pickett to Williams? Is that they're just saying he's tied to the quarterback more than anything?
I honestly think that's what it is, but I'm not going to lie, Joe. I'm pretty sure Jordan Addison made Kenny Pickett better. I don't think it was Kenny Pickett making Jordan Addison better. I don't think you accidentally stumble into 1,600 yards last season.
Ain't that the truth? I
don't think just even if Kenny Pickett was the best quarterback in the entire nation last year, which he wasn't, it's still like, you can't accidentally get in that. I mean, Bryce Young focused Jameson Williams last year, and he did not get to 1,600 yards. So I don't know. It's just, I think Jordan Addison, is going to – honestly, Jordan Addison's one of the most fascinating stories to follow this year, because he is getting paid $7 million to go to school there in NIL money. I know that's kind of hush-hush. We're not supposed to talk about it, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
No, you can talk about it.
Exactly. And he's getting paid that much money. So is he going to stay next season and not go to the draft? It's going to be very fascinating to watch, because he's making more money than almost all of the rookie wide receivers this year. I'm pretty sure all of them, I think. I don't know who's getting paid $7 million to be a wide receiver in the NFL this year, but like, why would you not do that? I don't know. Well, it's going to be interesting to watch. It's one of those secret storylines that nobody's going to talk about, because it's kind of like persona non grata that he's getting paid that much money to play college football. But it's happening. Texas had him until USC came in with that money. So
and he's 6 foot 175, so he's not a big guy at all, but he's looking really good. And every time I watch him play, he does just a little something that makes me like him a little bit more. So he's definitely a guy, especially in Debbie. If you can capitalize on the hate of it, float an offer out there. I doubt you'll get anything for it, but
exactly. And I think that you might even be lucky enough to get him as like the 6th or 7th pick in Debbie this year. So your pseudo contending team in Dynasty will actually be able to probably pick him up, because I don't think that he's definitely not going to get over the quarterbacks. Well, this is super flex I'm talking, but like, he's definitely not going to get over the quarterbacks in Superflex, not going to get over the top 2 running backs, whoever that second one may be. And then the wide receivers, you start at JSN, Quentin Johnson, like you start working your way down the list, and you might be able to get him pretty late in the first round, and that's going to be an immediate player on your team that you can start right away.
And that's a beautiful thing. That's how you win championships, baby.
Yeah, it is. All right. Just to make sure everybody has understood that the games this week suck. Oklahoma's playing Kent State. Ohio State is playing Arkansas State. North Carolina State's playing Charleston Southern. Notre Dame's playing Marshall. Clemson's playing Furman. Like, Georgia's playing something called Samford, not Stanford, Samford. I've never even heard of. Like, these are apocalyptically bad games. Michigan is playing Hawaii, though, and that ought to be fun. But Hawaii's really bad, and Michigan should put up a good score on them. So it's not the best slate of games for the big teams, but there is a lot of good draft talent in there that you are going to be able to pick up on. And, you want your studs to put up some stats, Joe. We're in a Devy league. Yeah. We need these guys to put up stats. These cupcake games are where they get to put them out.
Absolutely. And we'll take those points however we get them. And football is football, man. I don't care if it's the worst football ever. It's football, and it's back, and we're all here for it.
It is. All right, Joe. Follow you at OP Joe, 2 E's on the end. Follow me at Ombre Vendor. Follow our Offensive Points podcast. Please come in there, check us out. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. We love, getting those comments in there. I'll be putting each one of these podcasts. You'll get to see our beautiful faces talking about this college football. I know NFL is coming back this week, so I know that it's kind of like I can't watch 2 full days of football, but I do encourage everyone out there at least try to look at highlights, like try to look at, just try to watch some of the games because they are good games. Alabama, Texas should be a blowout, but it'll be a fun blowout. Like it'll be an exciting blowout. Maybe just check in what the stats are of the Stanford USC game, whatever you may be. Just get a little bit more college football injected into your life so that we can, be ready for our dynasty drafts as soon as we get to the draft in April. So, Joe, get us out of here.
Guys, we live it so you can win it. Thanks for tailgating with us. We'll see you next week.